This is my planter box area where I intend to plant 9 deciduous fruit trees, some apricot, nectarine, peach, and plum trees. I'll be planting them using high-density planting technique. The trees will be planted at about 18 inches apart with 3 trees in each of the planter boxes. I have really compacted soil in this area, so I had to do some ground prep in order to get this ready. In this video, I'll go ahead and show you what I did in order to prepare this area to improve the drainage and overall soil quality. In addition to compacted soil with poor drainage, I also had a problem with evasive roots from my palm trees in my backyard, as well as these palms from my neighbor's backyard. The roots from these palms ran all along this section. The roots traveled under my patio onto this area right next to where I intend to do my planting. The palm trees on my property, as shown here, also had evasive roots running through my backyard. To give you an idea of just how many roots I removed, take a look at this pile here. These are all the roots that I removed from just a small section of holes I dug. In order to keep these evasive roots from taking over my backyard, I decided to use a root barrier plastic. It's a fairly sturdy material. It's about 60 mils thick, which is about a 1/16 of an inch, so it should work well. To deal with the evasive roots from my neighbor's palms, I dug a trench all along the patio area at about 2.5 feet deep. I then placed the root barrier against the dirt wall and then pounded in some rebar into the ground, spaced out a few feet apart to secure the root barrier in place, as shown here. The palm trees on my property were already here when I moved in. I was told that they were at least 25 years old, so they had an extensive root system. In order to restrict the roots from these palms, I dug a trench around them, as you can see here. The trench was just over 3 feet deep. That's about how deep the roots were running. I then added the root barrier and reinforced it with rebar spikes, just as I had done previously. Both of these root barriers should help in restricting the palm's invasive root systems. So it should work well for my fruit trees. As for the poor draining situation, before starting this project, I had dug a hole at about 1 foot deep in order to see how long it would take for water to seep down. I filled the hole with water and found that it took about 5 days to completely drain. So I decided to dig a second hole, this time going at 2.5 feet, and still had poor drainage results. It wasn't until I dug a hole that was about just over 3 feet in depth that I was able to reach well-draining soil, and that took about a day for it to seep down. As soon as I determined the drainage depth, I decided to rent a 2-man auger. I used a 12-inch bit for the tree holes and a 4-inch bit for the deep root watering system I intended to use in this area. As I previously mentioned, I intended to plant the trees using high density planting, so I drilled 3 holes in a triangular shape where the trees were going to be planted. For each planter box area, I drilled several holes to be used for a deep root watering system. The holes were drilled out far enough to reach the drip line and were about 4 feet in depth. After drilling all the holes, I cleared out all the loose soil and dug out the area, leaving it as one big square hole that was wide enough to cover the planting area for all 3 trees. I also dug the holes a bit deeper, down to just over 3 feet deep. I then added some gypsum to each hole. Then I lined the bottom with about a couple of inches of lava rock and then added a layer of sand on top of the lava rock. Next, I filled the holes with a mixture of 6 parts native soil, 2 parts potting mix, 2 parts sand, 1 part worm castings, 1 part perlite, 1 cup of azomite, and some mycorrhiza. I then cut some 2x6 boards at about 31 inches in length and used some old castle planter wall blocks to build the square planter. I positioned the square planter so that the holes I had filled were in the center. I stacked the boards too high, which gave it a height of about 10 inches. The inside diameter of the planter box measures about 35 by 35 inches. After building all the boxes, I began to run the drip line for each planter box. I also ran a drip line for the deep root watering holes. As previously stated, all the trees that will be planted in this area are deciduous trees. To make things simple, I decided to tap into a pipe from a watering zone from some evergreen trees I have growing nearby. Since the deciduous trees will have much different watering requirements when they go dormant, I added a shutoff valve so that I could run the watering for my evergreen trees all year long and simply turn off the water line for the deciduous trees when they go dormant. The deep root watering system will not be needed until the roots are well established, which will take about a year or two. Until then, the trees will rely on the drip line valves that will be connected to the pipes shown here. After running all the irrigation pipe, I filled the boxes with the same native soil mix I used before. I won't show the actual tree planting in this video because the trees have not entered their dormant period. I have them growing in pots for now, but we'll transplant them in about a month or so when they go dormant. I'll post a follow-up video once I've planted all of them. After filling all the planter boxes with soil, I cut some perforated drain pipe and placed it in the deep root watering holes. I added some gypsum to the holes, then filled the outside pipe area with lava rock. I filled each hole to ground level, then ran some drip irrigation pipe to each of the deep root watering holes, with 2 drip lines as shown here. These drip lines can be adjusted from 0 to 14 gallons of water per minute, so they can be adjusted as needed. I then spread a small amount of worm castings on the outer area. Then I laid down a layer of newspaper, followed by a layer of cardboard, and finally I added wood chips on top. I will be adding some kind of border along here to separate this area and a section of grass I intend to grow on this side. I still have this whole section to work on. Most of the holes for the trees and deep root watering system have already been dug. I need to clear out all the loose dirt and prep the area for planting. I intend to plant several varieties of figs, cherry trees, mangoes, and lychee trees. I also have a grumichama and a strawberry tree that I'd like to plant somewhere in this area. I'll be planting all trees utilizing high-density planting techniques. I also have this other section that I'm still working on. As you can see, I've already started on it. I have a small section here for my ice cream banana. Next to it, I have an Espalier section with an Oro Blanco and Rio Red grapefruit. In this other area, I am planting various citrus, guava, and other fruit trees. The fruit trees planted in this area will be planted in high-density Espalier fashion. I will be clearing out this section near the fence line. I'll most likely use high-density planting with 3 trees per hole. I'm still not completely sure how I will complete this area, but most likely it will be high-density planting. I'll post a separate video as soon as I start on this area. I'd like to emphasize that if you have well-draining soil and don't have to deal with well-established trees with invasive roots, you may not need to go through all the trouble I have, not to mention all the added expense. I went through all this work because several previously planted trees in these areas did not do well. So I decided to work on my yard in order to give my fruit trees an improved growing environment. My hope is that all the added expense and hard work will pay off in a few years. I'll keep you posted as time goes by. I've placed a couple of links to some of my previously posted videos and a subscriber link to my channel at the bottom of this video. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can stay updated on this project and watch previously posted videos.